Alright, I'm here with a brand new topic, that is nephron. Yep, nephron, that is the structural and functional unit of the kidney. I'm sure you must heard about that there are millions of nephron, approximately 1 to 1.3 million of nephrons in each kidney. Okay, so guys, before digging into detail about the structure of nephron, let me tell you the function it performs. So it performs the function of the filtration. Yeah, filtration of blood, that is removal of toxic and unwanted substances from the blood. So moving to the structure of nephron. So as you can see, I'm drawing here, this is the afferent arteriole, and then these are a meshwork of capillaries, a tuft of capillaries, and which ends in the efferent arteriole. Then it goes through the peritubular capillaries and finally ends at the venous drainage. So this efferent arteriole, it continues as a peritubular capillaries and which eventually drain into the veins, through which blood goes out of the kidney. Okay, so this structure I've drawn, it is known as the glomerulus. Yeah, which contains afferent arteriole at one end and efferent arteriole at the other end, with peritubular capillaries and which eventually end at the venous drainage of the kidney. So as you can see, the glomerulus is fed by an artery and as well as it is drained into an arteriole. So this is why it is a high pressure system. Okay, this is the reason why nephron is a high pressure system. So next structure I'm drawing over here, it is called the Bowman's capsule. Actually, if we talk, the nephron, each nephron is formed by two parts. One is the renal corpuscle, also known as the Malpighian corpuscle, and then there is a tubular portion that is called the renal tubule. So these both structures which I have drawn yet, that is the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, these are the part of the renal corpuscle. Okay, and further on, which I'll draw the tubular structures, that will be the part of the renal tubule of the nephron. So in this way, a nephron is divided or formed by two parts, that is the renal corpuscle, which is made by glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, and second is the renal tubule, which makes up our proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle and DCT, and the collecting duct. Coming back to the topic, Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule is actually the capsular structure. The name suggests it. There is no logic behind this. And it is formed by two layers. The layers are very important actually, because the function of the Bowman's capsule depends on the layers. So it has two layers. One, it has the inner visceral layer, and one, it has the outer parietal layer. These layers has a functional importance, and both layers, visceral and parietal layer, these are composed of flattened epithelial cells. The thing, or there is an important landmark which the nature has provided in these epithelial cells. These are not normal epithelial cells, whereas these have a special feature, that is, these are with pedicles. So these epithelial cells with pedicles, these are known as podocytes. So the Bowman's capsule in the nephron is composed of the podocytes for the filtration. So in short, epithelial cells with the pedicles, these are known as podocytes, and which makes up the visceral and parietal layer of the Bowman's capsule, and these are very important because these helps in the filtration and act as a filtering membrane. If I dig it in detail of this, capillary endothelial layer, बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन एंड एपिथेलियम ऑफ विस्ट्रल लेयर. देखिए, हमने बात की है ग्लोमेरुलस की, फिर बोमेंस कैप्सूल की, तो दोनों मिलकर हमारी फिल्टरिंग मेम्ब्रेन बना देती हैं. ओके, कैपिलरी एंडोथेलियल लेयर हो जाएगी glomerulus is composed of the endothelial cells, and these endothelium of the glomerulus has many pores which are called the fenestrations and for the purpose of filtration. ठीक है, फिर हमने बताया बोमेंस कैप्सूल जो किससे बना है, 2 लेयर्स से, विस्ट्रल एंड पैराइटल, एंड विच आर फाउंड by a special epithelial cells which are known as the podocytes. Pedicle like epithelial cells हैं, epithelial cells which contains the pedicles, and these are also for filtration purpose. These are also for the filtration purpose. And then obviously इनकी अपनी अपनी क्या होगी, बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन होगी. तो these all three together, capillary endothelial layer of the glomerulus, basement membrane of both of them, glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, and the epithelium of the visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule. Epithelium जो है हमारा visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule. All these three together will work as a filtering membrane, and this is known as the filtering membrane. ठीक है ना, जल्दी से अगर हम एक बार और रिवाइज करते हैं ये, सो दैट नो मोर कन्फ्यूजन इज लेफ्ट विद इन द फिल्टरिंग मेम्ब्रेन कॉन्सेप्ट. तो glomerular capillary membrane, it is formed by a single layer of endothelial cells of the glomerulus. ठीक है, एंड देन बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन जो है हमारी ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरीज की बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन, एंड बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन ऑफ द विस्ट्रल लेयर ऑफ बोमेंस कैप्सूल, दोनों फ्यूज टुगेदर हो जाती हैं, एंड दिस फ्यूज्ड बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन सेपरेट्स एंडोथेलियम ऑफ ग्लोमेरुलर कैपिलरी एंड एंडोथेलियम ऑफ visceral layer. Okay, and this is known as the basement membrane. And lastly, the visceral layer of Bowman's capsule, which is formed by the podocytes or the pedicle like epithelial cells. And all these three together, it is known as the filtering membrane of the nephron. Glomerular capillary membrane, basement membrane, and visceral layer of Bowman's capsule is the filtering membrane of the nephron. I hope now it is clear, guys. And this filtering membrane helps in the process of the glomerular filtration. That is the process by which the blood is filtered. Okay, the filtering membrane performs the function of the glomerular filtration. And glomerular filtration क्या process है? जब हमारे पास blood आएगा from afferent arteriole, it is filtered, and some substances like ions, sodium, bicarbonates, amino acids, glucose, those will be filtered from the glomerulus and reaches to the Bowman's capsule. Whereas, important point to be noted here, plasma proteins does not pass through the Bowman's capsule. Plasma proteins हमारे नहीं पास होंगे because plasma proteins, इसके 2 reasons हो सकते हैं. One of the reasons is the large molecular size of the plasma proteins, and secondly, plasma proteins cannot pass through the filtering membrane because the basement membrane of the filtering membrane में एक basement membrane भी है that is negatively charged, and plasma proteins are also negatively charged, so these will repel each other, and thus the filtering membrane acts as a good filtrator, and thus filtering membrane acts as a good filtration membrane. Okay, and it will not let plasma proteins to pass through it. Moving on, next structure we have the tubular portion of the nephron, and I have already told you that tubular portion of the nephron, that is the renal tubule. It is made up of 3 parts, that is the proximal convoluted tubule, the PCT, the loop of Henle, and the DCT, that is distal convoluted tubule. So starting from the PCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule, let me draw. It actually arises from the Bowman's capsule, and it is situated in the cortex of the kidney. Yup. This structure has a very important function because it is the main site of reabsorption. Okay, so the filtrate जो हमारे पास होकर आ रहा है from the glomerulus and then Bowman's capsule. From the Bowman's capsule, the filtrate reaches the PCT, that is the proximal convoluted tubule, and main reabsorption, that is about 88% of the reabsorption occurs here in PCT. okay, सही है ना, ठीक है, कि हमारा जो है important ions भी आ रहे हैं from the Bowman's capsule, और वो हमारी बॉडी के लिए important है. So the nature works so greatly, the human is created that PCT, the proximal convoluted tubule, functions and reabsorbs those ions, those substances, and transfers them back into the blood, and prevents those important substances to be excreted in the urine. And the PCT is made up of the brush border epithelial cells, which helps the PCT in performing the reabsorption function. And let me tell you the substances which are reabsorbed from the PCT and then reaches back to the blood. These can be the glucose. The glucose is reabsorbed in high quantities. Amino acids, sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphates, and chlorides. If we said sodium, obviously the water follows it, and also water. So these are few substances reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule. Also urea may be reabsorbed from the filtrate into the blood. Structure in the nephron is the loop of Henle. Loop of Henle has three parts actually: the descending limb, then it has a hairpin bend, and then the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, the thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle. And it also performs the function of reabsorption of substances. Main function जो है नेफ्रॉन का वो यही है कि रीअब्जॉर्ब करना इम्पॉर्टेंट जो हमारे बेनिफिशियल सब्सटेंसेस हैं, लाइक ग्लूकोज हो गए हैं, सोडियम हो गया, वो लॉस ना हो इन द यूरिन. ओके, तो ये सारे नेफ्रॉन के पार्ट्स हैं. दीज विल मोर एंड मोर ट्राई टू रीअब्जॉर्ब सब्सटेंसेस फ्रॉम द यूरिन and at last excretes the unwanted and toxic substances from the body, and in this consequence the urine formation takes place. So coming back, loop of Henle has a descending limb of loop of Henle and hairpin bend, and we have the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. ठीक है, इन तीनों पार्ट से हमारा loop of Henle मिलकर बनता है. And now some substances will be reabsorbed in the loop of Henle, which are मेन सब्सटेंस जो हमारा डिसेंडिंग लिम्ब ऑफ लूप ऑफ हेनले में रीअब्सॉर्ब होगा, दैट इज़ वाटर. यस, सो अगर ज़्यादा वाटर लॉस हो रहा है, दैट इज़ द डाइल्यूटेड यूरिन, और लेस वाटर लॉस हो रहा है हमारे यूरिन में, दैट इज़ द कंसनट्रेटेड यूरिन. डिपेंड्स ऑन द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ द लूप ऑफ हेनले. एंड in thick ascending limb of loop of Henle, ions like sodium, calcium, and bicarbonates, also water will be reabsorbed in this segment of the loop of Henle. Structure, if we go through, that is the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Okay, and ions like sodium, calcium, chloride, bicarbonates, and water, these are reabsorbed from the DCT. Okay, and last structure in the nephron is the collecting duct. And the collecting duct, it is also a tubular portion of the nephron. It reabsorbs mainly the sodium, and along with sodium it will obviously reabsorb some water. So the collecting duct reabsorbs water, sodium ions, and urea from the filtrate. Yeah, urine formation is a blood cleansing function, and normally about 1 to 1.5 liters per day, that is 1500 ml per day, a normal person produces urine. Okay, and if we talk about that, if a person is producing more urine, that is more than 1 to 1.5 liters a day. If we talk approximately, if a person produces 3500 ml per day, and that condition is known as polyuria. And whereas there is another condition also, oliguria, production of low amount of urine, that is approximately 500 ml per day. So guys, here we complete. I hope it made sense.